Okay, hello guys. This is my pregnancy slash labor and delivery story that I posted about and asked you guys if you wanted to hear it. And a lot of you guys said you did, so here it is. So me and my fiance tried to conceive my son for about 12 months, and finally we did. And we were so happy and so excited, and I could not wait to be a mom. Like, I was wanted to be a mom, and I couldn't wait to be a mom, and I'm still like that to this day. But anyways, so we did, and my pregnancy was pretty normal. I had like pretty severe nausea, but I got medication for it, and I tried to kick through it. I just linked it to my pregnancy. I didn't think there was anything of it because nausea is common in pregnancy. So, yeah, a few weeks go by. I want to say I was around 15 or 16 weeks pregnant, and I ended up waking up, I believe, in the middle of the night to excruciating pain where your gallbladder is. And I didn't know that that was what it was called at the time. I'm not gonna lie and say I knew what every single organ in my body was called. I had no idea what the gallbladder even was at the time. So I just knew I was in pain in that area. And I was crying and screaming, and I just did not understand what was happening. Like, I thought I was having a heart attack. Like, it wasn't in my chest, but I felt like I was having a heart attack. It was that bad. We ended up having to go to the emergency room, calling 911, all that stuff. They ended up telling me that I had gallstones, and I was like shocked and confused and scared and worried and didn't know how that would mix with my pregnancy and how I was going to deal with that. They ended up giving me medication to kind of make me feel better for that night, and ended up telling me to like go see my OB, and they gave me a long list of like foods that I couldn't eat, like foods I had to avoid. And let me tell you, when I say that was a long list. And so, days go by, things move on. I'm trying to obey that list, but it was very difficult. Like, when I say difficult, I mean difficult. Like, I had to basically cut out all sugar, all sodium, all grease, all meat, all everything. The only things that I could eat were like plain dry cereal without like anything on it, really, like no sugars on it, or like a salad with like not even ranch. Couldn't have anything on it. Like, I couldn't eat that stuff. It would affect me big time. And I tried to somehow like scheme my way through that list and like find things that I thought I could still eat and like get by the system in some way. So I would like eat, I don't know, a bagel with like light cream cheese instead of like normal cream cheese, and it would work for me. Like, it started working for me, and so I started to like believe that it was working and that I could eat those things and like maneuver my way around it. So I would like, I don't know, eat cereal with like milk in it and put like a little dash of sugar just to give it some type of flavor, but not too much so I didn't like irritate my gallbladder. And so I thought that was working. It wasn't, because like I ended up waking up again from that pain, and I kept trying to get through it, and then I would wake up from that pain again and again and again and again, and I would try to do better the next day and eat better the next day so I didn't have that pain. And then eventually I would just, not eat because because I was just scared to eat. Like, I was terrified. I just didn't know what to do. I didn't want to feel that pain. I was scared. And so I ended up dropping all this weight. I ended up eating maybe like a piece of dry toast a day, just so I could like have food in my system and feed me and the baby and like survive. But I just tried to not eat because I didn't know what else to do. It was really difficult and really hard, but I got through it for a while until it just ended up getting really bad. And eventually it got to the point where like even eating that dry piece of toast was too hard on my gallbladder. Like, it would cause pain, and I would wake up, and me and my fiance had like a routine with this, okay? We dealt with it for so long that we had a routine. Like, if I woke up in the middle of the night from it, he knew that he was getting a tap on his shoulder, and he knew he had to wake up instantly, and he knew he had to like help me sit up, and he would rub my back to like help the pain a little bit. Then if that didn't work, because sometimes that would work, it would help me be able to fall back asleep. If it didn't, he'd end up walking me to the shower. I'd have to get in the shower and stand there and let the hot water like hit my back to relieve some of the pressure on my gallbladder. He would rub my back while I was in the shower, and I'd be standing there, and that would like help me puke. And every time I would puke, I would feel better because that pressure wasn't on my gallbladder anymore. It just came out. So we just had nights of that every day, day in and day out, and day in and day out, and day in and day out, and for like the whole 8 months of my pregnancy. Yeah, basically. But I want to say near, like, I was maybe 5 or 6 months pregnant. It ended up getting to a point where they wanted to do surgery because it was so bad. So they sent us to Rochester to be seen and like get a consultation. And they were really sitting here thinking, this team was thinking like, there's a baby in there. We can remove your gallbladder with the baby in there, but there's a very big risk factor with that. And I didn't really want them to do the surgery because I was terrified of what could happen to my baby. They were either going to have to take the baby out early to relieve the pain and get the gallbladder out and the gallstones, or they were going to have to try to be as careful as possible, make that incision and try to not hurt the baby and hopefully have a successful surgery. Or plan C would be to just not do the surgery. So a couple weeks go by, we get the news that they decided to not do the surgery because it was too risky. That was too far along. Excuse me. It was too far along and it was too risky, and they just ruled it out. My doctor ended up prescribing me a special medication to help, like, I think it was like to help dissolve some of the stones or something like that. I don't remember. So I was taking that, and that was actually making things a little bit easier. And I will say, like, the last 2 months of me carrying my son, things were starting to not be as bad, like, because of that medication. I was on, like, 20 different medications during my pregnancy. I had to take medicine for, like, 3 different medicines for my gallbladder. I had to take 2 different nausea medications. I had to take iron pills. I had to take my prenatals. I can't remember. It was one other medication. Can't remember the name of it, but yeah. I had to take a lot of medication. Anyways, so near the end of my pregnancy, I was 7 months. And I was living with my brother and his wife and my fiance at this time. One morning, I ended up waking up in the worst pain I had ever felt in my entire life. In my entire life. Like, worse than anything I could compare it to. I was screaming bloody murder. and I needed to get to the emergency room as soon as possible. My brother and his wife both had to work, so they rushed me and my fiance to the ER in Canandaigua before they went to work. They dropped us off, and Canandaigua, they get me in a room. They didn't send me to the emergency room. They sent, when we got there, they sent us to the labor and delivery area. And I'm at this point, I know that it's my gallbladder. At least that's what I was convinced it was, because I could feel that pain that I've been feeling, this whole time. But they're telling me that it's not my gallbladder and that I'm going into labor. They're like, you might have this baby and we have to send you to Strong Hospital because we're not prepared to deliver a baby early. Mind you, it's 9 in the morning. I am in pain, and I'm also freaking out because of this news they just told me. I'm thinking I'm going in because I'm having a gallbladder attack again. And I've already been to the ER 30 times throughout this pregnancy because of gallbladder attacks. So to me, this was normal-ish, it was. I've been dealing with it, and them to be telling me that my baby's coming early, I was in shock. I'm sitting there with my fiance. We're in the room, and we're like, we're gonna have a baby right now. We still have 2 months to go. Basically, I was 7 months at the time. I was 7 months and 3 weeks, so almost 8 months. I think somewhere around that time. I don't know. I was 7 months. I was in my 7th month-ish, somewhere around that time. I don't know exactly when to pinpoint that again, but yeah. So I call my mom and I tell her, they're telling me I might have the baby. They're sending us to Strong. I'm crying because I'm scared and I'm in pain and I'm confused. And my mom's like, we'll meet you at the hospital. Don't worry. So we get sent to Strong. They send us to labor and delivery there. They hook me up to all of this stuff. They want my IV. They want to check all my levels. They do all this crazy stuff. Now here's when the story takes a big turn and twist. So basically what ended up happening is they are checking my levels every day, and they admitted me into the hospital. So I had to stay put for quite a while. My fiance and me ended up basically living in the hospital. The first day we were there, they told us later on in the day that my gallstones, my gallbladder was causing my liver to weaken and my kidney to weaken, and my levels had to be a certain number. And so they had to try to bring my levels down every day. So what they would do is I had a schedule in my room. There was a chalkboard in my room, and they would have at 6 o'clock in the morning she has to have this medication, and at 10 o'clock someone has to come in and do this medication and this medication at this time. I had a long schedule of things that I had to do and take every single day. So basically I wasn't allowed to eat anything. I wasn't allowed to drink anything. I was only allowed to have ice once a week. I know, it sounds really bad. I was really only allowed to have ice, and sometimes my fiance would have water and he would sneak it to me because I was just so hungry. I didn't know what to do. But I wasn't allowed to eat anything because when I would eat something, my levels would go up higher. And they were trying to bring my levels down so that I could go home and, be okay for the rest of my pregnancy. They did eventually get my levels down, but right when they did get my levels down, this is about a week of us already living in the hospital. So the second week-ish, they find out that I have pancreatitis on top of having gallstones and my gallbladder being infected, and my liver being weak and my kidney being weak and my levels being risen, I have pancreatitis. And I didn't know what that was either, and no one knew what that was. We were all very scared. My family was very scared for me. I was terrified. They basically just told us that, it was something that they would deal with. And I would be going home within like 3 or 4 days, I think that they said at that time. Well, that didn't end up happening because my levels ended up rising again. And then my blood pressure ended up rising. And I ended up getting really swollen and I looked bad. I went from, in my pregnancy, I started out as, not in my pregnancy, but at the time when we went to the hospital in Strong, I weighed 189 or 190, something like that, by like the end of my pregnancy, basically. And by the end of the week of us staying in the hospital and me starving to death, okay? So starving and me staying in a hospital, I don't have access to food at all. I ended up gaining 50 or 60 pounds. Every single day, my weight was rising and rising and rising. I remember they took it the first day, it was like 210. Then the second day, it was like 230. Then the second day, it was like 235. Then 245. Then 250. It got all the way up to 265. 265, okay? In a matter of days. I was scared. My mom was scared. My mom was freaking out on them. She was like, what is going on with my daughter? I don't understand why she's so swollen. I don't understand why she's like this. And my mom called it something at the time, but it wasn't what it was. Or at least it might have been like the old term for it, but she called it something, and she was kept asking the doctors if they could check to see if I had that. And they didn't understand it. Like, it was weird. So I'm basically dying at this point. At least that's how I felt. Like, I wasn't actually dying. I felt like I was dying. I was gaining weight. I was in pain. I had all of this stuff happening to me while being pregnant. At this point, I don't even think that my baby is safe. I just don't. How could they be after my body is going through all of this? My liver, my kidney, my pancreas, my gallstones. Like, what? How could a baby survive that? In my head, I couldn't fathom it. I was scared. I was crying every day. I was emotional. I was terrified for what could happen. So they ended up finding out that I had preeclampsia about 2 days before, either 2 days or a day before I had my son. I cannot remember. At this point, I am 34 weeks pregnant. Yes, 34 weeks pregnant. So I'm 8 months basically. Yeah, I'm almost 8 months. I'll be 8 months in a week. But I didn't make it to that week. So, yeah, I am 34 weeks, and they tell me that I have preeclampsia, too. And now my mom is livid. My mom is, like, threatening to sue the hospital because of how long it took them to find this out. Because I clearly had it for quite some time because of my history of my blood pressure rising throughout my pregnancy. My blood pressure kept rising and dropping and rising and dropping and rising and dropping, and my OB at the time never thought anything of it. No one ever thought to like check and say, oh, I think you might have preeclampsia. It wasn't until my mom went off and made them check to make sure I didn't have it. And so she was livid. I was upset because I was confused on how professionals could not understand that was happening to me. I mean, obviously, I'm not blaming them at this point. It's over with, but it was really frustrating at the time because I just kept finding out all of this stuff that was wrong with me and wrong with me and wrong with me, and it was really, really scary and frustrating, and I just felt like I was dying. Like, I literally felt like that. I'm getting emotional now because this is the part where it gets really emotional for me to talk about. They ended up telling me that I had to go into labor. I wasn't going home. Change of plans. They had to induce me. They gave me a day that they were going to bring me to the actual labor part, because I was in like the delivery area, like after they deliver. So like, yeah. They brought me there one morning and things were starting to get started. I'm not going to go into detail about all of that, but I will say that they had to give me a magnesium drip, because magnesium like helps lower and your blood pressure. And if I don't know if y'all all know what a magnesium drip is, but it is the worst thing on this planet. I had a magnesium drip. I was induced. I was given Pitocin, I think. I don't remember what I was given exactly. I had a epidural too, because I needed that. Things seemed like they were going well, actually. I wasn't in pain anymore at this point because I was on a lot of drugs that the hospital was giving me to stay out of pain from all of the things affecting my body. I was on lots of drugs, like scheduled throughout every day. But they were safe drugs, apparently, to the hospital, and my son's fine, so. Anyways, yeah. My labor was going fine. I was really happy. I was excited to meet my son. I was scared, but I was ready to meet him. And I was ready to be able to get surgery, to get my gallbladder removed and feel normal again. I was just ready for all of these good things to happen. Meet my son, finally get surgery, finally get cured, finally feel better. I was just so excited. I took my contractions very well. My contractions were like easy for me, and this is before I had an epidural. Like everything was easy for me, because I'm telling you, okay, I went through so much pain throughout my pregnancy. Like, gallbladder pain is very excruciating, and I have a very high pain tolerance, like very high. So the labor part, not the labor part, but like, yeah, the labor part was easy for me, so to speak. And I'm talking about before the epidural, like the contractions and waiting for me to dilate more. It was easy. I had my water break, easy. All of that was easy. I was happy. I was excited. When it actually came down to pushing, it was hard, but I pushed through it. And it wasn't as hard as I thought it was going to be once I actually put my mind to it. And I like concentrated on just bringing a healthy baby boy into the world. Once I did that, it became a lot easier for me. But before, I couldn't focus. Like, when I first started to push, I was very scared and nervous, and I was crying. It was a mess. But once I got the hang of it, it got easier. And my labor took I was in labor for 32 hours. Eventually he came into the world. I had the magnesium drip. Sorry, I just got a little sidetracked. He came into the world. I had the magnesium drip while I gave birth, and the magnesium drip, once my son was born, I wasn't able to move. I wasn't able to hold him. I wasn't able to touch him. They did do skin to skin, but I couldn't touch him when they did skin to skin. I was too weak because of the magnesium drip. Literally takes like all of your bone, muscle, and like just your energy. It just strips you from it. It makes you feel like I don't even know what to call it. Like, you're floppy, like you can't move. And so one of the nurses had to like hold him there, I believe, while I held him and did skin to skin for a little bit. And then they had to take him the whole NICU team, let me go back a little to like when he came into the world. Sorry, I forgot about this. Once like they were ready to, I was ready to push completely, like this whole NICU staff ran into my room. There was like 10 people surrounding me. I felt very scared because of it, but also very safe. They were prepared for anything because he was being born early. He was luckily fine. He was breathing healthy. He had healthy lungs. He was screaming loud, and he was healthy as could be. Really, he had jaundice, and he had to stay under the lights for a little while, for like 2 days. And I'm really sorry if this story is getting a little bit like wishy-washy, confusing, because it's late at night. I am pregnant. It's kind of hard to remember this from a while ago, almost 2 years ago at this point. But yeah, I'm getting really sleepy. Whew. Anyways, guys, the magnesium drip sucked. I couldn't move. I couldn't hold my son. I couldn't even take care of my son for the first month of his life, because I still, like, I did try, but my fiance and my mom helped me a lot because I was very weak. I still needed surgery. I was still coming down from having preeclampsia. Like, I still had preeclampsia when I got home. I had it for about, I don't know, maybe a week after I got home. I had to rest and I still wasn't allowed to eat, really, because I still needed my gallbladder removed. It was just a really tough time, like a really tough 8 months, and a really tough recovery time. And then I ended up getting diagnosed with postpartum depression after I had my son, because everything that happened to me was really traumatizing, and I didn't know at first if I actually wanted to have kids again. Like, it actually, I don't want to cry. It actually, like, scared me so much to try to have another child, because I was so terrified at first that I was just terrified. Not that the whole thing would happen again, but that something would happen again, and I didn't want to go through that again. I didn't want to go through anything like that. I wanted to enjoy my pregnancy. I was very excited to be pregnant, and lo and behold, it did not sit well with my body because of all of the problems that were there before I got pregnant that I just didn't know were there. All in all, I don't want to get emotional, so I'm going to try to wrap this up. That is the story to me having my son and me being pregnant with my son. And I commend any women on this planet who carry children, because what we go through is really hard and difficult and challenging, and it's a really beautiful thing what we do, and it really does change you in so many ways, especially if you go through something traumatic like that. It changes you. It wakes you up and makes you realize how precious time is and how precious that baby is. And oh, man, it woke me. It woke me so much. And sometimes I think that God did that to me to teach me to be more woke, because I don't think I was very woke before all of that happening to me. I always think everything happens for a reason, so I'm really trying not to cry. Anyways, thank you guys for listening, and I hope you enjoyed my story. I know it was kind of all over the place and long, but I hope that you could understand kind of. I didn't go in 100% detail on every single thing that happened to me. honestly, it would take forever for me to do that, and it would be really difficult to remember every single thing that happened because it was so long ago. I mean, it wasn't that long ago, but I was pregnant, pregnancy brain, okay? I forget a lot of things, and I am pregnant, so, like, I just forget things quite often, and yeah. Thank you for listening. I love y'all, and if you guys want to hear more stories about things that, like, I went through in my life, I wouldn't mind sharing them. I'm very open to certain stuff, like, not everything, but I'm open to stuff. I didn't want to go in 100% detail on everything that happened to me in this story because I didn't want to cry. Like, it makes me upset because I felt like it wasn't fair that that had to happen to me, but obviously I couldn't do anything about that. But yeah, I'm gonna get off of here. I'm gonna go to sleep, get some rest for me and this baby. Good night, y'all.